I'm dancing a little bit in the background, Sandra. Could you see me? I don't think you can see me. Can you? I don't think you can.
I didn't see that until just now.
Yeah, I can see you, but I don't think you can see me as like a guest. So I'm always like, when the music starts playing, I'm doing a little bit of like, in the background here. And if I was in the car, my son would be like, "Mom, stop," But yeah, you gotta get your dance on sometimes, right?
Love it.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone. Hey, it's Brenda Meller back to you for another slice of social media pie. This is my live interview series where I bring on inspiring people to inform and educate you. And guys, look who I have with me here today. This is Sandra Long. She's a fellow LinkedIn rock star. Sandra, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Great to be here.
Good. It is so great to have you. And I am super, super excited about this talk today because you're going to be sharing with us some of your key takeaways from being a TEDx talk speaker. And I am super excited. Being a TEDx speaker is a goal for me at some point in my career, and I've been interested in this topic for a while. I know there's other people that are really amazed by the whole TED concept, the events and things like that, and they're going to be really excited about your topic as well. So before we get started, though, Sandra, what I'd like to do is I want to invite our audience. If you guys are watching, if you're watching live, if you're watching in playback later on, could you do me a favor? Leave a comment below. And I put up on screen my little hack for you guys. If you're watching this and you're worried about, sometimes you leave a comment and then you can't, the video kind of stops, pauses. This is what I do. Watch the video in your laptop and then pull out your phone. Where's my phone? Here's my phone. Pull out your phone, find the live stream there, and then leave a comment from there, because then the live stream won't get disrupted when you leave a comment. So you can just put your volume down, leave some comments as you go along. So that's my little hack. And when you guys are commenting, then we know the live stream is working. So right now, I see it's on my StreamYard. It's saying it's live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, but I'm not seeing any comments coming in. So could you guys do me a favor? Just leave a comment so I know this is working. And then while you're doing that, Sandra, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is all about, if you could.
So I have a lot in common with Brenda. We have a lot of similarities and similar passions. I'm a LinkedIn expert trainer. I'm a LinkedIn speaker. I'm an author. My book is LinkedIn for Personal Branding. I work with companies, mostly sales teams or leadership teams. And I do some work with universities and also with small businesses, but mostly companies. And so you can see we have a lot in common. And and I love to be on her list. And she brings us all together, which is awesome.
That's great. Thank you, Sandra. And I don't remember how I first came across you. I mean, I created this list of LinkedIn rock stars, and it's just my way of tracking other people who are doing similar work on the LinkedIn platform. And when I originally created it, I was finding people I would stumble upon, and some people blogged about other LinkedIn experts and trainers, and I would add them. And then other people would start saying, "Hey, I heard about your list. Can you add me?" And then I stopped taking self-nominations, and now I only take when people nominate you, and there's certain follower count criteria. And then quality of what you're posting on the platform too. And I kind of would screen people. I wish I had kept track, Sandra, of like where I first heard about you and where the nomination came in. I don't remember. Do you remember?
I don't, but we sort of travel in a similar circle. Some of us that are, I think, at a certain level of LinkedIn and been doing it for a while. I think we kind of know each other, and I think maybe we probably were connected on, as first level connections, and then one thing led to another. But it's pretty great. I mean, to be on the list is fun. And last, I think, October, November, I was #1 for 2 months, and I got a lot of follow. It was really a boost. And thank you for doing it, because you're amazing that you do it. And, it's just great.
Yeah, well, that's what this platform is all about. It's about building up that social media karma, paying it forward. And that's how you get enhanced visibility for yourself, by helping others, is what I found. So it's a delight me to be able to surround myself with awesome rock stars like you, Sandra, and to learn from you as well. So if you guys see the topic we're here talking about today, Sandra was a TEDx talk speaker. So I want to kind of kick off this discussion, Sandra, and there may be people watching that are kind of like familiar with the TED concept. They've heard of a TED event or a TED talk, but they may not be super familiar. So could you let's just start with what is TED? What does it stand for? And what's the difference between a TED and a TEDx? Let's start there if we could.
Okay. Well, I learned a lot of, I knew that TED and TEDx was a significant platform, but I learned a lot when I did the talk, which was in 2019. So let me give you a little background. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And it actually was started in Silicon Valley in the early 80s as an experiment, actually. And it's just one venue. And what they did was the concept that it's really expanded. So beyond just technology and entertainment and design, it's very cultural, very academic, and they have some core principles. So one of them is that it's all about an idea. Mm-hmm. So they want every talk to be about an idea and to use storytelling, which again, that makes it really exceptional. The other thing is what's called short form. The maximum length of a TED Talk or a TEDx talk is 18 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's not like an hour-long speech that we're used to or half an hour. It's 18 minutes max. And the trend in the last, this is when it started, but in the trend in the last few years has been even shorter. And I think people have shorter attention spans. Yeah. So when I did it, a lot of the venues are now talking about 12 minutes, keeping it really, oh, really? Yeah, keeping it tighter, keeping it shorter. Mm-hmm. But it's all about an idea. When they first, you'll find this interesting. When they first did the test, they weren't sure, and they put it on YouTube. It was also kind of, I think that's kind of the beginning of YouTube. Yeah. And it just took off. There were millions of viewers. So that was part of their test.
Interesting. So technology, education, design. Did I remember it correctly?
I keep thinking it's education, but it's technology, entertainment, and design.
Entertainment. Interesting. So I'm going to put that into the comments below for those that are watching. And then so there's TED and then there's TEDx. What's the difference between those two?
All right. So TED is the original, it's the very elite part of this whole program. Then what happened was that TED became so popular that venues around the world wanted to be sharing that kind of knowledge. And of course, it's spread out beyond technology, entertainment, and design. It's very cultural and scientific. And so the TEDx basically means that a location anywhere in the world is licensed to create this event, and it's all on the same format, the same principles. Mm-hmm. They have there's very specific branding. They have to follow very tight guidelines in terms of getting this license. So you'll find universities, libraries, different, large city centers that will apply to be a TEDx licensee, and then they'll be able to do a TEDx. You probably notice a lot of them will say like TEDx Detroit or TEDx New York or something, right? Because it's for various locations.
Okay, gotcha. So TED is kind of I think about like from a marketing standpoint, TED is kind of like the corporation headquarters. Yeah. And TEDx is like divisions of, so they kind of buy a license to offer a local TED event, but they call it a TEDx, and X is kind of the independently planned with permission by the parent company.
Yeah, well, they're not right. They're independent organizations, usually nonprofits. They're independent. Mm-hmm. And they have a license arrangement. I don't know if they buy it or I don't understand. I don't know how it works. Yeah. I just know they get a license, and it's very strict. They have to follow the guidelines of TED to be a part of it. And it's because it's very prestigious. If you have an organization and you have a TEDx event, that raises your prestige for your organization.
Yeah, because they don't pick everyone and they don't pick all the speakers. And I'm kind of curious too for you, Sandra. I mean, how long before you were picked did you want to be up on the TED or TEDx stage? And what was it for you that drove you to apply for that process? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was always very interested. So I've been a professional speaker really for the last 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was in corporate America, and I spoke as a leader or a sales leader and a team leader and at company events. And then once I started my own business, used speaking as a big part of that. And now I'm a professional speaker. So to me, it was a prestige thing. I wanted and it was a goal because it was an aspirational thing. It was something that I aspired to, that I kind of held up as something very difficult and a challenge, really a challenge. That was why I did that.
Yeah. And do you remember when you applied? I mean, how many people were you competing against for that specific event? Did they disclose that, or was it? I mean, did everybody get in? Is it very selective? What's the process when you apply to be a speaker? Do you know?
It really depends. Okay, there is a process, and you typically do apply. It will depend on the TEDx location. So they have to follow the overall guidelines of the TED organization, but then each independent TEDx event has judges and committee and people that will select that are local. So most of them have an application process. They'll have a website, then they'll have an application process. They'll have speakers submit a video. They'll have to also, in addition to submitting a video, you have to share what is your idea.
Okay.
And some of them will be much more extensive in their application. I've heard some of my friends that have done it have had to go through interview processes in addition to the video, or they've had to, send their whole speech. Like, it depends. But for where I did it was at Ferguson Library in Stamford, Connecticut. Basically, it was a full application process, and they used that application in video to decide.
Okay.
And they're not able to pick everyone. A lot of people do apply. And then there's usually judges or there's a committee that will go through and have criteria that they're looking for.
So did they reach out to you before they selected you to kind of interview as a finalist, or was it like you applied and then fingers crossed and then they say yay or nay? Or what?
Well, again, I'm sure it's different for every TEDx location. So for me, I was notified by email.
Okay.
But I think for some, I'm sure some locations will have a secondary, interview, or they're asking other questions, because these locations want to pick the best speakers for their event, right? Because it's all part of their brand too.
Yeah, that makes sense, because they want to put out the best speakers. They want to put topics out there that are relevant and that are going to garner interest, because the goal is to sell tickets to bring people to the venue. And then it's not just the live. It's kind of like these LinkedIn lives. It's not just the live audience. It's also the viewership afterwards. Is this going to be something that's going to resonate with people? And I would imagine they're probably looking for different topics or things that are trending. They probably don't give you too many. Do they give you guidelines on here's what you should speak about? Or is it kind of like, what's your idea?
This is a great question, Brenda, on topics, because so I have two things I want to add about that. So first of all, typically every location will have a theme. And if you're going to apply, make sure you tie your speech into the theme. Like, that is my biggest tip. So many times people say, I have this speech and I'm going to take my description that I use all the time and I'm going to submit it. And it's a mistake, because you want to take your speech and apply it to, to the theme.
The audience, the venue.
Well, they pick a theme. It could be leadership. It could be networking. It could be any kinds of. It could be design. So you want to kind of think about what that theme is and fit your topic, so that it's really aligned with that.
Okay.
So for me, I was lucky because I believe the theme was connection.
Oh, perfect. Right.
Yeah. And I knew, of course, I wanted to speak about LinkedIn, and I also wanted to speak about something that was applicable to a lot of people. So my talk was LinkedIn Community, a superpower hiding in plain sight, which was, I was thrilled because it was the first LinkedIn TEDx talk. And so I had seen Facebook talks and Twitter talks, but I was very excited about that.
Okay. So, and I'm pulling up your video in the background here, and I'm going to put it up on screen in just a second. But when I pulled it up on YouTube, there's like a little intro thing that comes along with it. And then I'm kind of queuing it up to the point where it starts, because I want to actually show you up on the stage. And this is like the fun part, when you're behind, the lights are behind you, the red curtains and everything that's kind of lit up on here. And I'm going to share the screen so you guys can see this. So tell me, what does that feel like, Sandra, when you come out and you're hitting the stage at a TEDx event? What does that feel like?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of, like, it's nervous energy is what it feels like, Yeah. So that's the intro.
Yep.
That's the sponsor of the TEDx talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So they show that first. And this is the intro.
Yeah. Which is nice. They do a really good job of packaging these things up, because it's not just the live, it's the, it's the sharing it with the audience afterwards and the share along value, and these go on YouTube and they go on the TEDx site, or sometimes I think they pull some of these up into the TED organization, the parent organization site as well. So we can see here, this video was uploaded in May of 2019. When was your talk? Was it in 2019?
Yeah, it was in 2019. And you brought up an interesting thing. So the bigger deal, so even though when you're speaking, you're mostly thinking about the audience, which is how that's how I always am. The bigger deal is really the YouTube, because many more people are going to see it on YouTube. And it gets put on the TEDx site, which has got millions of followers.
Yeah.
And you're right. I'm sure some of the very best speeches from TEDx get moved into the TED space. So that happened to a friend of mine who did a great speech, and she and it was funny. Here, I got to tell you her story. She applied 11 times to be a TEDx speaker.
Yeah.
She's a great speaker. But she just had to keep applying, because it's finding the right fit and whatever. And she did her speech, and it was so great that speech got pulled into the TED arena. So,
that's amazing. What was her talk about? Do you remember?
Yeah. So it was about appearance and women. So she's she's actually a medical doctor, and her name is Susan O'Malley, and she's a medical doctor, and she has I want to say, what is the word? I'm going blank on it. She helps. I can't remember the type of.
Like the older we get, our brains sometimes it stops mid firing, and I'm like, I had this happen to me the other day too, and I'm like, I don't know. I blame it on, I've got kids. So my first child, nothing happened. It was like my second child, the brain cells that were killed by the lack of sleep, they never came back. So sometimes, what I'll do is when I know I want to remember something, I'll say it out loud, because I have an easier time remembering if I heard myself say it, as opposed to just trying to keep that memory in my brain. But when you come back to it later, because you will during this interview, you'll be like, oh, I remembered what it was. Just jump in and we'll just keep going.
It's funny. It's a kind of doctor that she is, but this speech is about appearance, and I'll send it to you later. But I loved it, and the whole thing was, it makes you think differently. A good speech will make you think differently about something, and that's why it's an idea. And so she makes you think differently about your appearance and how what that impact is. And it was great. So, and I wanted mine to be. And I've had people, I think people that are really experienced with LinkedIn, maybe they thought the same, like you, if you watched it, it might not be the same, but I have people reaching out to me from LinkedIn all over the world. Yeah. And it's very gratifying, because they'll say, you made me think differently about LinkedIn. Yeah. That's what I wanted.
I want to come back to that point, because you said, you're talking to me, you, Brenda, might be thinking, well, it's maybe not affecting. I learned, Sandra, this is what I do for a living, but I am always seeking out other people who work in the LinkedIn space as independent consultants, because each one of us has different perspectives. And I almost think about, like, we're all looking through, what's that little thing? It's like a kaleidoscope, like we all look through, and if you twist it, the jewels change and the nuances, everything changes. And it's kind of the same way. We all are we're looking at the same thing, but through a different spectrum, through a different kaleidoscope, if you will. So there'll be things that you'll talk about, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I do that too. And then there's a little nuanced way of you explaining it. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. And then it blows up, in different ways, things that I'm doing as well. So, that's like one of my hacks is, if I want to get good at something, I look at other people that are doing a really good job. And I don't look at you as a competitor, Sandra. I look at you as co-opetition. Yeah. I learned that word from Terry Bean. He learned it from somebody else. And then there's somebody else on the LinkedIn Rockstar list. I think it was Elisa, blanking on her last name right now, but she calls it the restaurant row analogy. And like, think about if you're going to go out to eat, you go to that place in your city that has all the restaurants in a row, and then you have a lot to choose from. And the restaurants all work better collectively together, being clustered, than they would being spread out in different areas of the city. So so backstory here too, guys. When I first booked you to come on with me, Sandra, we got to tell the backstory about this. Yeah. And it was probably maybe January or February. It might have even been last year when we booked the show. I don't remember, but it was, we had this booked for, I think it was March 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys remember March? What a crazy month. In the beginning, was talking to my son about this because we were at this Taste of Troy event here in Michigan, and you go and there's it's all the restaurants from the community. They bring out tables. It's like a trade show, but you get to sample things, and then you vote on who's the best pizza and chili and whatever. And think about an event like that. They couldn't do something like that. That was the first Sunday in March, and then how quickly March changed. But we got towards the middle of the month, and everything was kind of like stopping, and people were getting their bearings, and we were freaking out because we didn't know where things were going to lead on this virus, and it was quickly becoming much worse than we ever had anticipated. So I reached out to you, Sandra, and I'm like, key takeaways from my TED Talk is such a great topic, and I so want to have this discussion, but timing is not right at all for this. So, and we were naive, Sandra. We're like, should we wait a couple weeks because this thing will blow over, and then we'll come back in April? And then I think we just kind of paused it, and I finally reached back out to you. I don't know if it was summer or fall, and I said, we need to get that rescheduled on the books, right? Do you remember March? I mean, remember that time frame?
Well, yeah, March for most of us, we were deer in headlights. Like,
yeah.
we were just all in a weird spot at that time. So yeah, for sure, it was a weird time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we ended up coming back today, because now it's like we've been in this for a while. And as with every situation, it's like we kind of recalibrated where we need to be and, getting our bearings again. But now we're like, okay, we're going to be functioning like this for a while. So let's figure out how to fully function as much as we can and as fully as we can. And part of this might be people that are thinking about attending a TED event, and they're going to be virtual for a little while. We know that. And there's some that are already happening virtually. But they will return at some point in the future. And there may be people watching who are thinking, hey, I'm going to put in my name to be a TED speaker, a TEDx speaker at some point. So I want to ask you, Sandra, I mean, you applied, you told us about that process, you told us about getting selected. Tell us about preparation, both before you apply and then once you're selected and then leading up to stage day. Tell us a little bit. I'm kind of curious. Pull that curtain back for us if you could.
All right. I am a real stickler for preparation. And so first of all, some people will memorize, you don't really have slides. You might have one or two slides, but you really don't have slides, and you don't have, they say you can actually have notes, but you don't read anything. So you don't
want to be that person holding a note card, because it breaks the emotional delivery, right?
So it really means for me, it was as close to memorizing. I practice it so many times that I don't need notes, and so it's pretty much just in my brain, like it's living in my brain. And so my speech was 11 minutes long. And even before I applied, I knew the date was May 11th of 2019. So I think I applied in January or December or January. As I applied, I blocked out time in my calendar for the end of April and the beginning of May, because I thought, if I get picked, I got to be in the zone for like several weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I had my calendar blocked out every single day. First of all, I rewrote the speech multiple times, and every time, and I practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And one of the things, you probably know this from being a speaker too, every time you practice it, there's a new way to do it, a better way. I think I want to say this first and this later. I want to reorganize, and I kept redoing it. And then on 8.5 by 11 paper practicing, then I switched to note cards. But I put it was a huge investment of time, because I felt it was important, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. I wanted to do the best job that I could.
Right.
But going into it, I would say, have a significant amount of time ready, because you want to really prep.
Okay. So did you practice in front of people? Did you practice on video and watch playbacks? Did you work with a coach? I mean, what did you do?
So my husband listened to me every single day.
Could he have delivered the speech by
Yes. My husband could deliver the speech.
Yeah.
My friend Mary and she was also doing it on May 11th. So she and I got together multiple times where we got on the actual stage. Because we know the library. We went actually to the stage, got up on stage, critiqued each other multiple times.
Yeah.
And then the day before, they had a practice, and we did it multiple times. We were the first ones there. We did it multiple times. So we were intense about our prep.
You were serious about it. You weren't messing around, right? You gotta get that practice going. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm putting the video in the background. Is it weird looking at yourself now on video? I mean, watching the playback, does it feel uncomfortable, or have you watched it enough where it kind of doesn't faze you anymore?
No, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah. I bet the people watching weren't thinking of that response at all. But that's actually a natural human reaction. Like, we don't want to look at ourselves. We don't want to see ourselves. It's very weird to see ourselves, isn't it?
It is weird to see yourself. Yeah. And to listen to yourself, your voice, you think, well, is that really how I sound?
Yeah, my voice sounds kind of annoying. Like, I feel like that. Like, when I watch playbacks of myself, I'm like, oh, I don't like the way I said that. And I know what I'm going to say next. I'm like, don't say it, don't say it. Oh, I said it, you know? So let's shift it to you, though. What did it feel like? What did it feel like when you're up on the stage? And then what did it feel like immediately afterwards? And even now, like when you're watching this playback right now?
So I'd say I had that nervous energy, and I can remember even walking up there. And that's when the time when I think we can all relate to this, is the few minutes right before is the time when you're like, you're so excited and it's a little nervous feeling. But then getting that first sentence out changes everything.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, just, and it's like that for a lot of, anytime I do a big talk somewhere.
Yeah.
And then as I was going, I was fine because of all that practice. I was totally comfortable. And then at the end, I was super happy to be over, to be relieved on it. And then you have to wait, because you do it. And then you have to wait until the library did some processing. Then they submit it to TEDx.
Yeah.
And then TEDx has got to go through a process of approving it before it goes on YouTube. So that took a few weeks for that process. So you're kind of waiting. Is it going to happen? And then you're waiting for, once it gets published, is anyone going to look at it?
Yeah.
So it's all those same kind of things you always have.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, when you talk about getting up on stage and the nervousness of it, and I went through like Toastmasters training years and years ago, and I love the experience of it. And I've always been an introverted heart, so it was like really hard to get out of that discomfort zone. But I can feel you, like when you first step on stage and those first few words, the nervous energy is just like building up. It's so much, and then there's like a release of it, and then you lean into it, and then you're on that energy flow. Like for me, it's sometimes getting over that hurdle where I can breathe. What I started doing when I was doing live events is I would come up, do an introduction, and Sandra, I like pie, right? Like my
pie.
I
know you like pie.
So I started giving presentations, and in the beginning, I would kind of welcome, how's everyone doing here today? My name's Brenda Meller, and I give a little bit of a background about me, and I'd my back, just a minute or so, and then I'd say, in addition to my job and my family, I also love coffee, chocolate, and pie. And in fact, I love pie so much, I bring one with me, and I bring a pie out, and I'd be like, I'm giving this away today. It's a boxed pie. And I'd have people drop their cards into a business cards into a tin rather. And but then I would say, who's with us here today? Could I get a couple of volunteers, tell us who you're from? And I'd wait for hands to raise. And I'd say, Sandra, why don't you stand up, tell us where you're from, and what's your favorite pie? And it would take the energy off of me as the presenter, and it would move it over to Sandra in the audience, and all of the audience would turn and look to Sandra. Yeah. And then, I could grab my sip of coffee, and, nobody's looking at me because they're looking at Sandra, and they're waiting to see what kind of pie she likes over there, right? Yeah. So there's little techniques like that. For you, is there techniques that you use when you're going up on stage to work through that nervous energy, or how do you push through that?
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I like meeting the audience. I like shaking their hands. I like asking questions. Like you take it to a very creative level.
Yeah,
I like doing that. Sometimes I'll have people come in and answer a poll question. So I like breaking the ice. But with the TED, you really don't do that. You kind of just have to go on stage.
Yeah,
so it's not the
you can't interact. You can't say, how's everybody doing today? Specifically, you in the front row. What did you have for lunch? You can't stop and do that.
What's your favorite pie?
Hey, if I ever make it up on the TEDx stage, I'm announcing it. I'm asking somebody in the audience what their favorite pie is, and I'm going to tell the audience what they said. It's going to happen.
Just go do it. Like I think you can just do it. Just
you gotta, whatever works, right, with your personality.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, yes, I would say you should do whatever works for you, for sure. And that works. That's great for you. I love it.
Well, you got to figure out what works with your personality and your brand. And I'm kind of curious for you, what were you hoping to achieve from a business perspective? Was this just a personal goal, or were there anything that came out? I mean, was there any outcomes that helped to support you in your business or helped you to get to where you are today after being a TEDx talk speaker?
Well, I say it was primarily a personal goal, but from a business perspective, I was talking to a prospect the other day. In fact, it was on Monday. I had a Zoom call with a prospect who has a company that they want me to come in and do a program with their entire company.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And they mentioned that they had seen my TEDx talk. So that was part of them getting to know me and my values.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens with a book. And when you have a book and you have a talk, it's a way that people learn about what you think, because there's a lot of people that have different opinions about LinkedIn or whatever the topic. And reading that person or reading their book or hearing them speak really warms them up so you understand I'm going to be a good fit from a value perspective.
Absolutely. And Sandra, I'm putting you on the spot here, so if you don't, that's okay. But do you have a copy of your book handy where you could pull it?
Yeah.
So let's do this. I'm going to grab mine too, because this is what we do here. Let me grab this one right here. So I got to grab one from a bag in the back. So let's hold our books up so we can you can put it right in front of your face too if you want, or peek out from the side. That might be a fun little YouTube still video that we'll put together here. But I want to encourage you guys. I mean, Sandra and I are both similar in what we do, and we offer similar insights, and then we offer different nuances to those insights. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they bought my book, and I said, can you post a picture of you with the book on LinkedIn and tell people about it? Because it's helping to get some traction. And people are having a lot of fun with their pictures. And the person replied back and said, I'm happy to post about it on my personal Facebook, but I don't want to do it on LinkedIn because I'm connections with so-and-so who's another LinkedIn trainer, and I don't want this person to feel like I'm not supporting them. And I'm like, I don't feel like that person would feel that way. And Sandra, I don't know about you, if I look at my bookshelf right now, I don't know how many books I have in here on marketing, entrepreneurship, business, managing my business finances. I don't buy one book. I buy a lot of books in a topic that I'm interested in, right? And I bought I don't have it with me yet, but I bought your book. So I want to learn from you, and I want to encourage people that are watching, buy Sandra's book. I don't care that you haven't bought my book. Buy Sandra's book. Buy it and then buy my book later, of course. But
I say buy both books. And so I agree with your philosophy. And I have some other LinkedIn experts as people that did testimonials. And I know that you did too. I just got Brenda's book. And I agree that we learn from each other. I think if someone says that they know everything and they don't need to read anybody else, they're just missing all this opportunity to learn, because we all get better by learning from each other. So I say buy both books. Absolutely.
Buy them both, get them all, right? So I want to move this I want to bring our audience into the discussion right now, guys. And I put a little ticker below. If you're watching this, I just say comment below to ask a question or to offer your speaking tips. So if you have been a speaker at an event and you have some tips to offer people, you can comment that below. And then I'm going to put this little reminder for you guys who maybe missed it earlier. This is my little hack, because if you're watching these things in a LinkedIn Live, you may notice that if you leave a comment, sometimes it kind of hiccups the stream, and it might be holding you back from leaving a comment because you don't want to miss when I ask Sandra to answer your question. So here's my hack. I watch the live stream in the laptop, right? And then I go to the activity stream for that person on the phone. So look up Brenda Meller on your phone, go to my activity section, and you'll be able to find the video there. And then you can ask the question from your phone, and then you can keep the live stream going. So there's no disruption of that video that goes through. So I put this up a little while ago. This is a little one of my LinkedIn Live tips to put the question up a minute or two before you're actually going to get to that point. And then just ask, I'm just looking for, your feedback on the topic or any questions that you may have. And I see there's many people that are watching us here today, and Dawn agrees with you and I, Sandra. We can support many people even on the same topic. And I would imagine even when you were getting ready for your TEDx talk, Sandra, you probably watched a lot of TEDx videos, didn't you?
I did. I watched a lot of them. Yes.
Yeah. Is there any that are particularly memorable for you? Whether they're the big names or people that that you watched in preparation for your talk?
Well, you know what I did? I don't know if this was the greatest idea, but I watched a lot of the other social media speakers. So, I wanted just to get a sense of kind of what they were talking about. And so that's what I did.
Okay.
Mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think about over the years, the TED Talks that I've watched and the ones that are particularly memorable. And sometimes they're on different topics and different categories. They're not even things that I do. And I remember I think it was Sheryl Sandberg, her talk about Lean In. And that was before she did her talk, or her book, I should say, on the same subject. But sometimes and there's almost like parallels, right, with what you write as a book and then what you present up on stage. And then the TEDx is kind of that next level up of being up on stage. But there's probably some similarities in what's in your book and then some differences. Obviously, you go into more depth in the book than you can up on stage too, right?
Well, my book is about personal branding. So I have a lot in there about profile, a lot about content. There is one chapter on community, but the speech was all about community. So there is some overlap, but the book is personal branding, and there's a lot of different elements. And this was really one idea. So, and I love your idea of the Sheryl Sandberg example. That's a great example of an idea, like a powerful idea. Her concept with Lean In. Yeah.
Yeah. And those folks that are watching, if you have a favorite TED Talk that you'd like to share, drop the link in comments, or just tell us the speaker and the topic name or something, share that along. Cause I'm always looking for inspiration. I'm inspiration junkie, Sandra. I'm like, I can't get enough. Like, tell me topics and speakers I want to look up. And
some very famous people have, and I haven't listened to them all, but some very famous people have done TED Talks, like Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Elon Musk, people, there's lots of big folks, very significant people that have a lot of very interesting ideas that if you really want to get into that, it's great things to spend time on. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to pull up your LinkedIn profile up on screen, and I'm doing the co-pilot thing right now here, trying to navigate and pull things up in the background here. So I'm going to pull your profile up on screen here, Sandra. For folks that are watching, are you open to accepting new invitations, or what's your methodology there?
Yeah, please definitely either follow me or invite me to connect. Mention Brenda's show. That would be really helpful for me. I have my follow button on. So if you want to follow, just click follow. If you want to connect, then click on the more, and then you'll see connect, and you can invite me that way.
So there might be people watching that are wondering, like, follow versus connect. What's the difference?
As users, for LinkedIn users, each of us can decide if we want to have the connect button show or the follow button. So for most of my clients, they have the connect button. But if you're doing a lot of content and you've got thousands of connections, you might want to switch to follow. It really depends on your goals. Like, what do you do, Brenda? Would you use follow or connect?
I moved over to follow probably about 2 years ago. So and I did that intentionally because I was getting so many invitations that were coming in, and I couldn't keep up with them. I mean, it does create a hurdle, and I've heard that from some people saying, well, some people don't know they have to go to the more button, and there's a workaround. You can always go to the more button and click on. And then I love your advice of always including a personal note. What I found is that the people that really want to get a hold of me, if they can't message me there, they might use an InMail to do it, or they might go on my timeline and comment on one of my recent posts, or go to my profile and find my email, and then they get a hold of me. So I don't mind that I'm creating that hurdle, because I'm creating a quality hurdle for people that really want to connect with me.
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. And I think, like, again, if you're a big content producer, if you're doing a lot of content, you get a lot of invitations. And I think a lot of people are just inviting you because they want to see your content.
Yeah.
So like, just following, is simple. They can just get the follow and they get your content.
They see, and the follow is a one-way. You don't need to wait for them to approve it. The connection is a two-way. One person sends it and another accepts it. And some people don't go on LinkedIn every day and all the time. So you might be waiting a month or so before they actually click on that acceptance, right?
Yeah. And, and I think the fact that LinkedIn introduced this kind of, it wasn't in the very beginning that they had to follow, but I think so many people now are comfortable because of Instagram and Twitter. They know know about following. And so they'll just come in and they'll follow, which is convenient. Makes it
a lot easier for all of us. And I'm going to pop up your website up on screen here as well, Sandra. I'm going to encourage folks to go to, this is such a simple thing to go to, postroadconsulting.com. I'm curious, where's the name Post Road coming from?
Well, in the East Coast, so I'm in Westport, Connecticut, and Post Road is our main road.
Okay.
Actually, the Post Road is a historic road. It was the original mail mail route, post, and it goes all the way from Maine, I believe, down to Florida. So in the East Coast, and they do call it different, like some places they call it Boston Post Road or Post Road. And so when I think about, it's funny, I'll tell you, the post, the original post was mail, certainly, right? That's the original post. Well, now a post is social media.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. So, post, yeah.
Yeah. So I like, the fact is I'm located on Post Road. And I also felt like picking Post Road Consulting meant that I'm local. Like people from a whole East Coast would be like, "Oh, where are you? You must be in my town." And I hear that all the time because Post Road is such a well-known traveled road.
It's a well-known in that local area. Well, that's very cool. And there's a double play on words, post, mail, post versus LinkedIn. So I pulled it up on screen, and I think when we were in the pre-show, you were talking about where people can find your YouTube, that TEDx talk on your YouTube. And was it under
resources and events?
Resources and events. And then I think when we navigated to that page, it's at like the bottom of the page. So if you guys don't want to go on YouTube, if you want to just go to her website, TEDx LinkedIn community, there's her talk right there. So Sandra, what a delight. I just want to say thank you so much for joining today, and just give you the opportunity for any final comments, things you might want to share, any other advice for speakers, or, what are you working on? Anything kind of help to close this up.
I guess I just want to say, try to do something that's out of your comfort zone. I mean, it was really out of my comfort zone to do it, and I'm so glad I did. And it makes me think, every year in the beginning of the year I try to, and now it's January, what am I going to do this year that's going to push me as a person? So it's a big investment, but you feel good. So I hope that you guys will want to apply, and don't give up. If you first apply, try again, because it happens a lot of times. You have to try a few times, but I would highly recommend it. And I wish you all a lot of success.
That's awesome. Thank you for the advice, and thank you for the inspiration too. And you've inspired me. I don't know when it'll be that I apply, but I will. I actually have it in my LinkedIn about statement. I have like some personal and professional goals. And one is to be on the TED or TEDx stage at some point. And I think I'm partially holding back because I'm like, well, it's going to be virtual for a while anyways, even if this whole coronavirus thing is gone by the fall, which, who knows where we're going to be. I don't think people are going to be comfortable going out to large venues yet. So I'm like, well, maybe it's a 2022 or 23 or something if I am ever accepted. But I really loved hearing your advice today, Sandra. Thank you so much. And it was such a delight getting the chance to chat with you today.
Thanks a lot, Brenda. It was fun.
Yeah, awesome. All right, guys. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to thank everyone for watching here today. Could you guys do me a favor? As soon as you're done watching this video, if you leave the video, then if you go back to wherever you're watching it, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, click to share the video. And if you haven't posted this week, that counts as your post for the week. And then when you share it, you might just add a little setup text and say something like, watch this interview where @Sandra Long, tag her in that, talks about her experience of being a TEDx speaker, and then maybe share something about it in the video. That counts as your post. You're building up social media karma. Sandra's going to see that you shared it. I'm going to get a notification that you shared it as well. It's going to make me feel good. So that really helps us out. And you never know who you could be reaching with that message. There might be somebody in your network who is thinking about, being on the TEDx stage at some point, and you're helping to inspire them. So do that if you can. And then also if you go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe, you can join my VIP email list where I'll send out LinkedIn strategy tips and also notifications about upcoming interviews in this series. So Sandra, you talked about earlier having a big goal for the year. So do you have a big goal that you set yet for 2021?
Well, my problem this year is I have multiple, and I'm trying to winnow that down because I feel like I've got too many goals. So I'm working on that right now. So I'll stay tuned, Brenda.
Well, I look forward to, I haven't really set my New Year's resolution. I've got a couple things that I'm kind of kicking in my head right now, but I agree with you. If you set big goals every year and even some small goals to go along with that, every year you'll achieve more, right? That's the key to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this in playback, still leave a comment below. I'm going to share the links with Sandra. So if we didn't get to your question or your comment today, she'll be having access to that. And I look forward to seeing everybody on LinkedIn. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Remember to wear a mask, and we will see you guys around on LinkedIn. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.